The massive crystal dome of the Galactic Council chamber gleamed under artificial stars. Hundreds of alien beings sat in floating seats that moved slowly around the central speaking platform. The air smelled of ozone and fear. Ambassador Kang. Minho stood in the center circle wearing his simple blue uniform. His dark eyes moved calmly from one alien face to another. He had been coming to these meetings for 3 years now. Each time the aliens looked more worried. High Arbiter Kelthane rose from her throne. She was ancient even by her species' standards. Her crystalline body caught the light and threw rainbows across the chamber walls. When she spoke, her voice sounded like wind through broken glass. We gathered today to discuss the human problem. Murmurs filled the chamber. Some aliens clicked their mandibles. Others flashed colors across their skin. A few made sounds that human ears could not hear. Counselor Vexitar slithered forward on his belly. His reptilian head swayed as he spoke. In 50 Earth years, these humans have taken 17 worlds. They build cities faster than we can count them. They breed like insects. We breed like mammals, actually, Minho said quietly. Because that is what we are. Vextar's yellow eyes narrowed. They make jokes even now. This is exactly the problem. No respect for proper order. Dr. Park Suman sat in the visitor section taking notes on her tablet. She was the only other human in the chamber. Her job was to study alien behavior patterns. Right now, she was studying fear. The fear was everywhere. She could see it in how the aliens held their bodies, how they avoided looking directly at Minho, how their voices got higher when they talked about human expansion. The humans ignore our trade restrictions, said Counselor Brachtel. His forearms waved as he spoke. They make their own shipping routes. They sell goods at prices we cannot match. Supply and demand, Minho replied. Basic economics. They do not follow our population controls, added Counselor Yithron. Her tentacles writhed with agitation. Each human world has millions of inhabitants, within decades. We like having families, Minho said. Children are our future. High Arbiter Kelthane raised one crystal hand. The chamber fell silent. The humans represent chaos. For 10,000 years we have maintained balance, controlled growth, managed resources, prevented wars. She paused and looked directly at Minho. Then you arrived. Minho nodded respectfully. We are grateful for the welcome we received. Grateful, Kelthane repeated. The word seemed to taste bad in her mouth. Tell me, Ambassador, how many children were born on human worlds last year? Approximately 12 million. Gasps echoed through the chamber. Several aliens made religious gestures. 12 million, Kelthane said slowly. In 1 year. Do you understand what this means? It means we are successful as a species. It means you will overrun the galaxy within 2 centuries. Minho was quiet for a moment. Then he smiled. That seems like a long time. Counselor Vexitar reared up on his coils. This is exactly what we mean. No understanding of consequences, no respect for limits, no fear of proper authority. Dr. Park looked up from her notes. The fear levels in the chamber were spiking, heart rates increasing, stress pheromones filling the air. Whatever came next would not be good. High Arbiter Kelthane began to glow brighter. We have found a solution. The chamber went completely quiet. Even the air recycling system seemed to stop humming. There is a world called Kairos 7. It is classified as a Class 15 Deathworld. Several aliens immediately began making protective gestures. A few actually left their seats and moved toward the exits. No species has ever survived on a Class 15 world for more than 6 months, Kelthane continued. The gravity is 2.3 times your Earth standard. The atmosphere will crush most respiratory systems. The native life forms are extremely hostile. She paused dramatically. The weather patterns shift from Arctic cold to volcanic heat within hours. The radiation levels cause genetic damage in most known species. Even the plant life actively hunts, warm-blooded creatures. Minho listened without changing expression. Dr. Park felt her stomach sink. She knew where this was going. We offer this world to humanity, Kelthane announced, for your exclusive use. The chamber erupted. Aliens shouted in dozens of languages. Some applauded. Others seemed shocked. A few appeared to be praying. Counselor Vexitar's voice cut through the noise. A generous offer. An entire world for the humans alone. Very generous, agreed Counselor Bractel. No other species to compete with. Complete freedom to expand as you wish, added Counselor Yithron. Minho looked around the chamber. Every alien face showed the same expression. They thought they were watching him receive a death sentence. What about our current colonies? He asked. Those worlds are needed for other purposes, Kelthane replied. But do not worry. We will provide transport ships. Enough supplies to last 6 months. 6 months, Minho repeated. By then you should be fully established. Dr. Park wanted to scream. She knew exactly what 6 months meant. It was how long the aliens expected humans to survive on a world that killed everything else. But Minho just nodded slowly. This is very generous, we accept. The chamber fell silent again. This was not the reaction they expected. You accept? Kelthane asked. Of course. An entire world just for humans sounds perfect. Vextar leaned forward. You understand this is a Class 15 Deathworld? I heard that part sounds challenging. Challenging. Counselor Bractel's forearms twitched. It is certain death. Minho shrugged. We will see. Dr. Park stared at her ambassador. Either he had lost his mind, or he had a plan. Knowing Minho, it was probably both. When can we expect the transport? Ships? Minho asked. High Arbiter Kelthane seemed confused. You truly accept these terms? Ambassador Minho accepts for all of humanity, came a new voice. Captain Lee Do-hyun had entered the chamber. He was still wearing his spacesuit from the journey down from orbit. His face was grim but determined. I have 17 transport ships ready for immediate departure, he announced. We can begin evacuation procedures within 48 hours. The aliens looked at each other uncertainly. This was going too smoothly. Very well, Kelthane said finally. The human problem will be resolved. As the session ended and aliens began filing out, Dr. Park approached Minho. Are you insane? She whispered. Minho smiled. Maybe. But I looked up Kairos 7 in our databases. And? High gravity means stronger bones and muscles. Thick atmosphere means rich oxygen content. Hostile life forms mean incredible biodiversity. Radiation means evolutionary pressure. He paused and looked toward the chamber's exit where aliens were still celebrating quietly. They think they are sending us to hell. But it sounds more like a training ground. Dr. Park felt a strange excitement building in her chest. The adaptation potential would be enormous. Exactly, and the best part? What? They are giving us 6 months of supplies. That should be more than enough time to figure out how to make it work. As they left the chamber, Captain Lee joined them. The ships will be ready tomorrow. Every human world is preparing for departure. Good, Minho said. Make sure we pack extra medical supplies and lots of tools. Tools? Lee asked. We are going to need to build things. Probably things that have never been built before. Dr. Park looked back at the crystal dome one last time. Inside, the aliens were already planning victory celebrations. They had no idea what they had just unleashed. The transport ship New Seoul shook violently as it entered the atmosphere of Kairos 7. Captain Lee Do-hyun gripped his command chair while alarms screamed throughout the bridge. Lightning crashed against the hull in colors that did not exist on Earth. Electromagnetic storm is tearing apart our navigation systems, reported Communications Officer Lim Sung-ho. His voice was calm despite the chaos around them. 3 ships already lost contact, added Navigator Park Ji-ho. The planet seems to be actively fighting our entry. Dr. Park Suman looked up from her sensor readings. Even through the terror of crashing, she felt excitement. The atmospheric composition is incredible. Oxygen levels are 30% higher than Earth normal. That will not matter if we crash, Lee replied grimly. The ship lurched sideways as another electromagnetic pulse hit them. Through the viewports they could see the surface of Kairos 7 rushing toward them. It looked like a nightmare painted in impossible colors. Emergency landing procedures, Lee ordered. All passengers prepare for impact. The new Soul hit the ground hard. Metal screamed and systems failed. Emergency lights cast red shadows through the corridors, but they were alive. Lee stood up slowly and checked his crew. Everyone was breathing. Everyone was moving. The gravity felt like wearing a heavy backpack, but it was manageable. Damage report, he called out. Main engines are completely destroyed, reported engineer Kim Ji-won. But life support is stable. The hull held together better than expected. External sensors are working, added Dr. Park, and the readings are fascinating. Through the cracked viewports, they could see their new world. The sky was a deep purple color with 3 moons visible even in daylight. Strange trees swayed in wind that seemed to blow from several directions at once. Temperature outside is 42 degrees, Park reported, but it was minus 15 degrees just 10 minutes ago. The weather patterns are completely chaotic, agreed meteorologist Choi Hee-sung. It is like the planet cannot decide what climate it wants. Kim Ji-won was already suiting up in protective gear. I need to check the outside of the ship, see what we are dealing with. Be careful, Lee warned. Remember what the council said about this place. Kim stepped through the airlock and onto the surface of Cairo 7. The first thing she noticed was that the ground felt soft under her boots. Too soft. Like it was alive. She knelt down and took samples. The soil was not soil at all. It was some kind of organic material that pulsed with a slow rhythm, like a heartbeat. Captain, she called over the radio. I think the ground is trying to digest my boots. What? The surface is secreting some kind of acid. My equipment is starting to dissolve. Kim pulled out her chemical analyzer and ran quick tests. The acid was organic and very complex, but it followed predictable chemical rules. I can neutralize this, she announced. Give me 2 hours and some basic supplies, while Kim worked on the ground problem. Dr. Park was studying the local wildlife. Through the ship's sensors, she could see creatures moving in the strange forests nearby. They were unlike anything in Earth's fossil records. 6-legged animals that moved in perfect coordination with each other, as if they shared one mind across many bodies. They are hunting, she observed. But look at their behavior patterns. Security Chief Yang Tae-won joined her at the sensor station. His military training made him see threats everywhere, but even he was curious about these creatures. They move like a military unit, he said. Perfect formation, no wasted motion. Because they share neural connections, Park explained. Each animal is like a finger on the same hand. One pack of the creatures was approaching their ship. Yang reached for his weapon, but Park stopped him. Wait, let me try something first. She activated the ship's external communication array and sent out a simple electromagnetic pulse, the same type of signal that human brains used for basic functions. The pack of creatures stopped moving. For a long moment, they just stood still in the purple grass. Then they sent back their own pulse. They are trying to communicate, Park said, with wonder in her voice. Meanwhile, biologist Choi Hee-sung was making discoveries of her own. The medical bay's radiation detectors were going crazy. The background radiation on Cairo 7 was 50 times higher than Earth normal. But something strange was happening to the human crew. Instead of getting sick, they seemed to be getting stronger. Blood samples show increased bone density. She reported to Captain Lee. Muscle tissue is developing faster than normal. Lung capacity is expanding. Is that good or bad? I think it is very good. The radiation is not random. It seems to be triggering specific genetic sequences. Ones that help us adapt to high gravity and thick atmosphere. Lee frowned. How is that possible? Maybe human DNA is more flexible than we thought. Maybe we evolved to handle challenges like this. Outside, Engineer Kim had solved the acid ground problem. She mixed common ship chemicals into a coating that made their equipment invisible to the digestive surface. It thinks our metal tastes bad now, she explained proudly. But the biggest surprise came at sunset. As the purple sky turned deep black, something enormous moved in the distance. Something the size of a building with eyes that glowed like stars. "What is that?" Yang asked, raising his weapon. Dr. Park studied the massive creature through long-range sensors. The Council data calls it the Devourer, supposed to be the apex predator of this world. The creature was definitely looking at their ship, but it was not approaching. It just watched them with what seemed like curiosity. "It is not hunting us," Park realized. "I think it is just interested." "Interested in what?" "In us. We are something new on its world." As night fell completely, the other scattered human ships began checking in over long-range radio. Amazingly, most had survived their crashes. The human crews were scattered across 3 different continents, but they were alive. "Ship Busan landed near volcanic vents," reported Captain Hong Minsu. "The thermal energy is incredible. We are already setting up power generators." "Ship Incheon crashed in a forest of moving trees," added Captain Nam Soo-young. "But the trees seem to be protecting us from smaller predators." Captain Lee looked at his crew. They had been on Cairo 7 for 8 hours. According to Council data, they should all be dead by now. Instead, Engineer Kim was designing permanent shelters that could resist the acid ground. Dr. Park was establishing communication protocols with the local wildlife. Biologist Choi was documenting beneficial mutations in the human colonists. "Status report," Lee announced over the intership network. "All ships reporting successful surface operations," replied Communications Officer Lim. "0 casualties. Multiple breakthrough discoveries." Lee smiled as he looked out at the alien landscape. The massive devourer was still watching them from the distance, but its posture seemed almost protective now. "Send a message to the Galactic Council," he ordered. "What should it say?" "Tell them we have arrived safely on Cairo 7. The weather is lovely. Thanks for the new home." Dr. Park laughed. "They are going to be very confused." "Good. Confusion gives us time to figure out how to make this work long-term." Outside, the acid ground pulsed with its slow heartbeat. The pack-hunting creatures settled down to rest near their ship like guard dogs. The Devourer continued its aim. Patient vigil. Cairo 7 was supposed to be humanity's graveyard. Instead, it was starting to feel like home. 6 months had passed since the humans were sent to Cairo 7. Counselor Zephyrian sat in her private chamber reviewing the automated monitoring reports. Her 4 insect eyes scanned the data multiple times, but the readings made no sense. "Impossible." She clicked in her native language. The life sign detectors were still picking up human activity on the Deathworld, not just survival signals but thriving population indicators. The equipment had to be malfunctioning. Zephyrian called her assistant. "Prepare my scout ship. I need to personally verify the extinction of the human colony." "Yes, Counselor." "Should I file this as a standard cleanup mission?" "Yes. We will collect samples for study and confirm the termination." 3 days later, Zephyrian's sleek reconnaissance vessel dropped out of hyperspace near Cairo 7. The planet looked exactly as dangerous as it always had. Purple storms raged across the surface. Electromagnetic interference made communication difficult. "Beginning orbital scan," announced Scout Thelvak from the pilot station. His reptilian hands moved quickly over the controls. "What do you detect?" "Multiple heat signatures across 3 continents. Structural formations that appear artificial, but this cannot be correct." Zephyrian moved to the sensor station. The readings showed not just human life signs, but organized settlements. Large ones. "Take us into the atmosphere. I need visual confirmation." The ship descended through the chaotic weather patterns. As they broke through the cloud layer, both aliens stared in shock at what they saw below. Green fields stretched across, the landscape where the acid ground should have killed everything. Strange buildings that seemed to grow from the earth itself dotted the terrain. Creatures that should have been deadly predators moved peacefully alongside human figures. "Land near the largest settlement," Zephyrian ordered. They touched down, in a clearing where several humans were working with some kind of organic machinery. The humans looked up at the alien ship with curiosity rather than fear. Communications Officer Lim Sung-ho approached the landed vessel. He was wearing simple work clothes and carrying a tool that looked like it was grown rather than built. "Welcome," To New Busan, he called out in perfect Galactic standard. Are you here for the tour? Zephyrian and Thelvok emerged from their ship wearing full environmental protection suits. They expected to need them on this deadly world. Tour? Zephyrian asked through her suit's speakers. Sure, we get visitors sometimes. Other species that the council sent to nearby Deathworlds. They like to see how we set things up here. Lim gestured toward the settlement. Would you like to see our agricultural districts first, or maybe the residential areas? Thelvok whispered urgently to Zephyrian. This has to be some kind of trick, or hallucination caused by the planet's atmosphere. But Zephyrian was studying the humans more carefully. Lim looked healthy, more than healthy actually. His bone structure seemed denser than normal human anatomy. His skin had a slight shimmer that suggested radiation adaptation. How many humans live here, she asked. In New Busan? About 50,000. Across the whole planet, we are up to 200,000 now. 200,000, Zephyrian repeated faintly. Growing every day. The birth rate here is amazing. Something about the environment really agrees with human biology. Dr. Park Suman joined them, leading what appeared to be one of the deadly pack-hunting creatures on a leash like a pet dog. Oh, visitors, she said cheerfully. This is Rex. He helps us communicate with the local wildlife networks. The creature, the council data called a shriek runner, looked up at the aliens with intelligent eyes, then made a soft, chirping sound. Rex says hello, Park translated. He wants to know if you would like to meet his pack family. Zephyrian felt dizzy. That creature is supposed to be a mindless killer. Mindless? Oh no, they are incredibly smart. They just think differently than we do. More like a group consciousness. Park patted Rex affectionately. Once we figured out their communication system, they became our best partners for exploring the planet. Xenozoologist Bei Minji arrived carrying a basket of strange fruits. Fresh harvest from the guardian trees. Would you like to try some? Guardian trees? Thelvok asked. The carnivorous plants. Turns out they only attack things that threaten their territory. Once we proved we were here to help, they started protecting our settlements instead. Bei offered the fruit to the aliens. These are incredibly nutritious. The trees grow them specifically for us now. The tour continued for hours. Zephyrian saw impossible things everywhere she looked. Humans working alongside creatures that should have killed them. Weather control, systems that used the planet's chaotic storms for power generation. Buildings that were part architecture and part living organism. But the most shocking discovery came when they visited the medical center. Biologist Choi Hye-sung showed them charts documenting human genetic changes. The radiation here triggers beneficial mutations. Our bones are 30% denser. Our lung capacity has increased by 40%. Our skin can process certain wavelengths of radiation as energy. You are evolving, Zephyrian said in wonder. Rapidly. Children born here show abilities that their parents never had. Enhanced strength, improved reflexes, even limited telepathic connections with the local wildlife. The final stop on the tour was the most incredible. Engineer Kim Ji-won led them to a massive clearing where something unthinkable was happening. The Devourer, the building-sized apex predator that was supposed to kill everything on the planet, was lying peacefully in the center of the space. Human, children were playing on its back while their parents worked nearby. We call him Guardian now, Kim explained. He showed up about 3 months ago and just decided to stay. The kids love him. The massive creature opened one eye as they approached. It looked at the alien visitors with what could only be described as gentle curiosity. He protects the settlement from the more dangerous wildlife, Kim continued. And he seems to enjoy human music. We play concerts for him every evening. As if on cue, a group of human musicians began setting up instruments near Guardian's head. The creature made a sound like distant thunder, but it was clearly pleased. Zephyrian and Thelvok returned to their ship in stunned silence. The data they had collected would shake the foundations of galactic civilization. What do we tell the council? Thelvok asked as they lifted off. Zephyrian watched the human settlements shrink below them. Even from orbit, she could see new construction, expanding outward. The humans were not just surviving on Kairos 7, they were thriving. We tell them the truth. The humans were not eliminated. They were enhanced. Enhanced how? They did not fight the planet. They joined it. And now they are something new. Something we have never seen before. As their ship jumped to hyperspace, Zephyrian began composing her report. She knew the Council would not believe it at first. The idea that a Class 15 Deathworld could become a garden paradise was impossible, according to everything they knew. But the evidence was undeniable. Humanity had not just survived their exile. They had turned their prison into their greatest strength, and that terrified the Galactic Council more than anything they had ever faced before. 2 years after the exile, Admiral Song Jae-ho stood on the observation deck of the orbital station above Kairos 7. Through the transparent walls, he could see 5 different worlds in the same star system. All of them were supposed to be uninhabitable, death worlds. All of them now had thriving human colonies. Status report on the outer worlds, he requested from his aide. Lieutenant Commander Oh Soo-jin pulled up the holographic displays. Kairos 4 population has reached 30,000. The ice mining operations are exceeding all projections. And Kairos 2? 45,000 colonists. The volcanic forges are producing materials we never knew existed. Song nodded with satisfaction. Each world in this system had been classified as impossible to colonize. Each one had become a jewel in humanity's growing crown. Any word from our diplomatic teams? Yes, sir. Diplomat Yoon Hyun reports successful. Contact with 17 different exile species across the system. This was the discovery that changed everything. Humanity was not alone in their exile. For thousands of years, the Galactic Council had been sending problem species to these death worlds. Most died quickly, but some had managed to survive in small hidden colonies. The Torgathi were crystalline beings who could process raw energy. They had been exiled for refusing to limit their reproduction. They lived in deep caves on Kairos 2, barely surviving on geothermal vents. The Veltar were insectoid creatures with natural hive minds. They had been exiled for developing technology too quickly. They hid in the frozen wastes of Kairos 4, their numbers dwindling each year. The Morden were aquatic beings who could breathe liquid methane. They had been exiled for asking too many questions about council authority. They lived in the underground seas of Kairos 6, slowly dying of loneliness. But when humanity arrived, everything changed. The Torgathi partnership is exceeding all expectations, Oh reported. Their energy processing combined with our adaptation techniques has created completely new technologies. Song smiled. The Torgathi could absorb and redirect any form of energy. Combined with human engineering, they had developed power systems that could run entire cities on background radiation. What about the Veltar? Their hive mind integration with our communication networks is revolutionary. We can now coordinate activities across entire continents instantly. The insectoid species had been amazed by human willingness to work as individuals within larger groups. Their natural hive mind could link with human neural patterns, creating a hybrid consciousness that was both unified and diverse. And the Morden? They are designing underwater cities for us, places where humans can live and work beneath the methane seas. The aquatic beings had wept with joy when humans offered them partnership instead of conquest. They had been alone for so long that they had almost forgotten how to hope. Dr. Ryu Kyung-min entered the observation deck carrying a tablet full of new research data. He was the lead scientist for the terraforming project, though his work was unlike anything the galaxy had seen before. Admiral, the latest test results are ready, he announced. What did you find? We are not making hostile worlds more habitable. We are making habitable worlds more challenging. Song raised an eyebrow. Explain. Each generation of humans born in this system shows increased adaptation abilities, but they need greater challenges to continue developing. Ryu showed holographic models of genetic progression. The children born on Kairos 7 can survive in conditions that would kill their parents. The children born on Kairos 2 can withstand temperatures that would melt steel. So you are creating training worlds? Exactly. Each new world we colonize becomes a stepping stone to even greater extremes. We are not just expanding through space, we are expanding the definition of what life can survive. But this expansion was not going unnoticed. Communications Officer Lim Seung-go approached with urgent messages from the outer system sensors. Admiral, we are detecting a massive fleet approaching from Council space. Song turned to the tactical displays. Dozens of ships were dropping out of hyperspace at the edge of the system. Their weapons were powered and shields were raised. Composition? Mixed species. Looks like a joint council task force. War Marshal Grixtar is commanding from the flagship. Song had been expecting this. The council could ignore humanity when they thought the problem was solved. But news of successful Deathworld colonization would spread fear throughout the galaxy. Open a channel to the fleet. The main screen flickered to life, showing War Marshal Grixtar. The alien was a massive creature with natural armor plating and multiple arms designed for combat. Human Admiral, Grixtar spoke in accented Galactic standard. By order of the Galactic Council, this system is declared a quarantine zone. No ships may enter or leave. Quarantine for what? Song asked calmly. Genetic contamination. Your species has been infected by exposure to Class 15 environments. You pose a threat to galactic stability. Song almost smiled. We pose a threat to your stability. Surrender your vessels and submit to Council authority. You will be relocated to a secure facility for study. I think we will stay here. Grixtar's multiple arms moved in what Song recognized as a threat display. You have no choice. Our fleet carries enough firepower to sterilize this entire system. You are welcome to try. The Council fleet moved into attack formation. Their weapons charged with energy that could crack planets. But as they approached the inner system, something unexpected happened. The Deathworlds themselves began to respond. Kairos 7's chaotic weather patterns suddenly organized into a massive electromagnetic storm. The energy discharges reached out into space like grasping fingers. Kairos 2's volcanic activity increased dramatically. Streams of superheated plasma began arcing between the planet and its moons. Kairos 4's ice storms became focused beams of frozen particles that could cut through starship hulls. What is happening? Grixtar demanded. The planets are protecting us, Song explained. We are not just living on these worlds anymore. We are part of them. The first Council ships to enter the inner system found their weapons drained by electromagnetic interference. Their shields were overwhelmed by volcanic plasma. Their hulls were shredded by ice particle beams. But no one was killed. The planet's attacks were precise, disabling rather than destroying. This is impossible, Grixtar snarled. This is evolution, Song replied. As the Council fleet retreated to a safe distance, a new message came through on all communication frequencies. It was broadcast from every human colony simultaneously. President Kim Woo-jin appeared on screens throughout the galaxy. He spoke calmly, but his words carried the weight of absolute certainty. People of the galaxy, we are coming home. The message was simple, but its implications were staggering. Humanity was no longer content to hide in their exile system. They were ready to return to galactic civilization, but they were returning as something new, something that could turn Deathworlds into gardens, something that could make the impossible seem easy, something that could change the galaxy forever. Admiral Song watched the Council fleet maintain their distant blockade. They could keep humanity contained for now, but containment was just another challenge to overcome. And humans had become very good at overcoming challenges. 5 years after the exile, President Kim Woo-jin stood in the command center of the living ship New Earth. The vessel had been grown rather than built, its hull breathing with a slow rhythm while its neural networks processed information from across the galaxy. Approach vector to Nexus Prime confirmed, reported Navigation Officer Han Soo-young. The Council's defensive fleet is maintaining distance. Good. We are here to talk, not fight. Kim looked through the ship's transparent skin at the capital world of the Galactic Council. Nexus Prime still gleamed with its crystal spires, but the orbital defenses looked nervous. Weapons platforms tracked their approach while shield generators hummed at maximum power. Ambassador Shin Yuna joined him at the observation area. She was humanity's chief negotiator, though today she would be offering terms rather than asking for them. "Are you ready for this?" Kim asked. "I have been ready since they sent us away," Shin replied. "Today we find out if they are ready for what we became." The communication screen flickered to life, showing High Arbiter Kelthane, the ancient crystalline being looked smaller than Kim remembered, frailer, as if the last 5 years had aged her centuries. "President Kim, you come uninvited to our capital." "I come as promised. We said we were coming home. This system is under quarantine. You cannot be allowed to spread your genetic contamination." Kim smiled gently. "Arbiter, look around your capital. Tell me what you see." Kelthane paused, confusion flickering across her crystalline features. "I see Nexus Prime, the center of galactic civilization. I see a dying world. Your population growth has been negative for 3 centuries. Your innovation has stagnated. Your member species are leaving the Council faster than new ones join." The truth was painful but undeniable. While humanity thrived on Deathworlds, the established galactic civilization was slowly collapsing. "We maintain order," Kelthane said. "Defensively. You maintain control. There is a difference." General Park Ji-hoon stepped forward. He commanded humanity's military forces, though his weapons were unlike anything the galaxy had seen before. Living armor that could adapt to any attack, ships that could heal themselves, soldiers who could survive in vacuum. "Arbiter, your blockade of our system has failed. Your economic sanctions are meaningless. Your diplomatic pressure has no effect. Because you refuse to follow galactic law. Because your laws no longer apply to us." The statement hung in the air like a challenge. For thousands of years, the Galactic Council had been the supreme authority in known space. No species had ever declared independence so boldly. "What do you want?" Kelthane asked finally. Ambassador Shin activated her presentation system. Holographic displays filled the space between the ships. "We want to share what we learned." The displays showed before and after images of the Deathworld system. Barren planets transformed into garden worlds. Extinct species brought back from the edge of extinction. Technologies that seemed like magic. "This is impossible," protested Counselor Vextar, joining the communication. "Class 15 worlds cannot support life. Cannot support life as you understand it," Shin corrected. "But life is more flexible than your classifications allow." She showed population data from across the former exile system. Not just humans, but dozens of species working together. The Torgathi providing unlimited energy. The Veltar creating planet-wide communication networks. The Mordun designing underwater cities. "You took our outcasts and made them productive," observed Counselor Brachtel with his forearms twitching nervously. "We took your prisoners and made them partners." The presentation continued with economic data that shocked the Council into silence. The Deathworld system was now producing more resources than 10 normal Council worlds combined. "How?" asked Counselor Yithron. "By working with nature instead of against it. By adapting instead of controlling. By growing instead of maintaining." Kim stepped forward. "Arbiter, your system is based on artificial scarcity. You limit population to control resources. You restrict technology to maintain power. You exile anyone who questions your authority. We maintain stability. You maintain stagnation." Shin showed the final set of data, genetic diversity charts that revealed the terrible truth. Most Council species were slowly dying from lack of challenge. Their populations were declining because their environments were too safe, too controlled, too predictable. "Your species are becoming extinct through comfort," she explained. "They have nothing to struggle against, so they stop growing." "And your proposal?" Kelthane asked. "Dissolve the Council. Create a new government that includes all species as equals. Open the Death Worlds to anyone willing to adapt. Share the technologies that can make any world habitable." The Council chamber erupted in outrage. Dozens of alien voices shouted protests, in multiple languages. The idea of dissolving their ancient authority was unthinkable. But some voices were different. Younger Council members who had watched their home world slowly empty. Scientists who had been restricted from pursuing dangerous research. Military officers who had seen their forces grow weak from lack of real challenges. "The humans offer hope," said Junior Counselor Tekhan. "My world has lost 60% of its population in the last century. Perhaps it is time for change." "Change brings chaos," Vextar hissed. "Stagnation brings death," Kim replied. The debate continued for hours, but the outcome was inevitable. The old system was dying whether they admitted it or not. The question was whether they would choose evolution or extinction. Finally, High Arbiter Kelthane spoke the words that would reshape the galaxy. "We accept your proposal. The Galactic Council will be dissolved. A new concordat will be established with equal representation for all species." 6 months later, the first ships began arriving at the former Deathworlds. Not exile ships, but colonist vessels. Families seeking new challenges. Scientists eager to push the boundaries of possibility. Young beings who wanted to be part of something growing instead of something dying. The transformation was remarkable. Worlds that had been written off as impossible to inhabit became centers of innovation and growth. Species that had been declining began to thrive again. Dr. Park Suman, now director of interspecies biology, watched from her laboratory on Kairos 7 as children from a dozen different species played together in the gardens where acid ground once killed everything. The devourer, still called guardian by the children, watched over them with patient eyes. The carnivorous plants had learned to grow fruits that fed every species. The pack-hunting creatures served as guides and protectors. "Incoming message from the new concordat," announced her assistant. Park activated the communication system. "President." Kim's face appeared on the screen, now transmitted from the mobile capital ship that traveled between worlds. "Status report, Director. Population growth is exceeding all projections. Genetic diversity is increasing exponentially. Innovation rates are up 400% from Council-era averages. Any problems?" "None that we cannot adapt to solve." Kim smiled. "That seems to be humanity's specialty." As the communication ended, Park returned to her research. Today she was studying the neural connections between human children and the local wildlife. The bonds were growing stronger with each generation. Outside her window, the 3 moons of Kairos 7 shone down on a world that had been transformed from hell into paradise. Not through conquest or control, but through acceptance and adaptation. The galaxy was changing, growing, becoming something new. And at the center of it all, humanity continued to do what they did best. They found ways to help everyone survive and thrive together, even on worlds that were supposed to kill everything that touched them.